Yeah. Okay. Good. Great. Technology at its
Okay.
finest. It's always when you have everything set up, and then just a couple of minutes before the stream goes live, then something just stops working. It's always that with technology. Thank you for your time, Steve, and it's good to have a talk about yield notes because obviously I am a yield notes investor for over 10 months now, and I was very excited being part of yield notes. And then, of course, everybody heard about things changing very abruptly because of market conditions, and we could not withdraw funds, we could not receive pending withdrawals, and everybody was in shock. I mean, I think every yield notes investor is probably in shock. So can you maybe explain to us where is yield notes currently standing?
Okay, so the issue which came up during the last payouts, was first of all that the market situation changed very badly, in a sense that we do masternoding and staking as a business, meaning we generate coins and we sell those coins against Bitcoin to pay out our investors. And usually when you look, to simplify it, I try to keep it very simple. When you look at Sapphire, which was our main coin, you can see on CoinMarketCap that the liquidity, which is in essence how much trading is going on, dwindled rapidly to the downward side. So it fell very low. And we had huge issues exchanging Sapphire and our other coins to BTC to pay out our investors. Now for the last payout, we had already segregated via Binance the BTC. And what compounded to the problem for the last payout was that Binance froze these assets, which are about at a price of then 20,000 euros per BTC. Now it's dwindling even further, as you know, because the market collapses even further. Was roughly 6 million, which were reserved to pay out the remaining payouts, and that compounded to the issue. And so I got a call from Urs, and we just needed to stop the project. Like to freeze it, not to stop it for good, just to freeze the payouts until we could clear that situation, plus to restructure the project, because else we would have started taking in money and paying out users from the BTC that we collected, and that would in essence have turned the full business model into a Ponzi scheme, which we absolutely needed to avoid. And yeah, that's in short the gist of it, of what transpired. So what we're working right now to rectify this situation is masternoding and staking will still go on. It's also still ongoing as we speak, but we need to bring value back to the coins in the backend, like to our coin economy, which is like the Decennomy aspect of it. And what we're doing is we're bringing in real assets that will power the coins through transactions, through volume, to appreciate them again during the coming year, and to allow people to withdraw their stake plus the profits, of course.
So in the current events, in what ratio? Because in the last audit you had over collateralized 30%, right? So 100% of all deposits you had 130%. So in that situation, even though let's say withdrawals are frozen, there is still enough liquidity eventually to pay everybody back. Given the current market circumstances and everything that happened over the last month or so, what is the status quo on that point now?
That is the problem, because the coins are still all here. The coins have been masternoded. So on the coin side, we are fine, but the counterpart to sell off those coins is missing because the liquidity is not given anymore. So this put us into a very dire situation, and compounded to that problem is that after we announced that, the coins dwindled even further because the belief in our ecosystem, we harmed it by telling the news, but we needed to. There's a saying in Germany that says better an ending with terror than a terror without end. And we needed to put the brakes, knowing that we would harm the system as it is, but we needed to make this full stop in order to rebuild. So it's not looking very good on the asset side right now.
So does that mean so does that mean that like what you said, that you have all the coins, but if the coins depreciate like 90% because you have no liquidity, there's nothing to trade it against, does that mean that the 130% is now like 15%?
Approximately, and it's hard to assess because the moment you start selling the coins, you're putting pressure on the market even further. So it's very hard to assess how much there truly is in value at the current stage. That is the issue that compounds to the problem, and that we compounded, of course, on ourselves, because we couldn't sell any coins in that moment. We needed to communicate it openly, and this put us into this precarious position that we're in right now.
Okay, so basically most of the money virtually is lost at the moment until the value of your tokens start rising again, and that it's possible to trade it against, and that Binance and eventually other larger exchanges let you exchange those kind of amounts of Bitcoin or other currencies that you need to either transfer funds to users or maybe even exchange them yourself. Is that true?
Exactly, but we are not relying on the Binance payment like we would be, because we know such thing can be ongoing. We have different parties and different people trying on our behalf and behalf of yield nodes. Also, we are trying to jump over a few of the support people to some higher positions to get this money unlocked. But we are not relying on those funds to be unlocked for the recovery plan, because we need to keep working and we need to keep appreciating our coins so that we could even come over that hump in case this was an ongoing, we have no idea when this case would be resolved, because the communication with Binance is very, very slow, so to speak.
So let's talk about Yield Nodes Pro then. I've read the 10-page paper about bringing in real assets and binding them to your current cryptocurrency projects to also give them real value with real use cases and real matter in the real world. If the total value is so much depreciated, how is it possible then to invest? Because you said that you have 300 million in real life assets at the moment from yield nodes, right? Is that beside the depreciation of all the tokens, or is that part of it? Because it sounds like a lot of money.
This is not, to clarify this, the money has been exclusively used to masternode and stake coins. So no money has been flown out of the system or invested into any property. That would be illegal, and this is not our business, our core business. Mm-hmm. What we did was we reached out to other parties and partnerships, and those people are willing to give their assets, but not like signing them over to yield nodes, but to run their economy through the Desenomy network, mm-hmm. essentially using our coins for transactions, buying goods, rentals, costs, everything, to build our own economy at the back and exchange the belief that coins have. Like most of the coins work on the pure factor of believing in them, and exchange the belief with true value. And this is the proposal that we're having right now. At the current moment, tentatively, we have assets secured close to 1 billion, because I did some mailouts. I also got some favors from friends who know me from a long time of doing business together, and they're all willing to take this beta test and to join the Desenomy and run the economy through it. So this is a tentative for now. This is a snapshot, a moment in time, if you will. And I, as a marketing manager, will devote my time through the year until everything is reconstructed to gain as many assets as possible. So if that number goes much higher and we secure contractually only 10% of them, we would be in for a very beefy start to appreciate the coins again.
Yeah, so for example, just for my interpretation, does that mean, for instance, we talked in our first interview, we talked about those that you could charge your car or maybe even decharge your car, right? Release the energy back into the grid, and that you could earn crypto with that, for instance, or pay with crypto. And is that what you mean, like bringing real assets into this Desenomy, new business partners that you are acquiring right now, which have nothing to do with the current funds being locked up in the masternoding and staking, but for them, for instance, to use your blockchain technology for transaction, so that means transaction fees, etc., etc. That's the way that you are binding more value to those tokens, so that you have a bigger probability to increase the value of your token for masternoding. So in the end, let's say the 85% or maybe even more that you are currently underwater with your total invested amount, to elevate that, to make it possible that it's going to be better than only 15% left, or everybody has to write off 85%. So hopefully in the future it will be possible to get 50%, or maybe even eventually, if some kind of miracle maybe happens, 100%. Is that my interpretation correct? Can you maybe elaborate on that?
That's quite right. However, we also estimate that if everything goes according to plan and we bring in these huge assets that are transacting over the chains, the value of the coins will go very, very high, because right now the value of the coins is set based on pure make-believe, so to speak. So when you have billions of assets that are transacting millions tentatively over the blockchain, this will give liquidity, because the transactions, for instance, let's take an example with a hotel. Someone is renting a room and the person is paying with credit card. These funds are being converted to Sapphire, and the owner of the hotel could either decide to keep getting paid in Sapphire or exchange those again out for euros. It's like a process that goes through. You can compare it like moving from an economy in Germany to an economy in Switzerland with different rules and different setups. And this process of using our coins and transacting through the Xenomi will give us liquidity. And the liquidity, because coins need to be bought then, coins will be burned, assets leaving the system, some coins will be burned, more assets coming in, more coins will be generated. This will balance the things out. And this will give all the coins not only use case, but also actual utility. And through this process, we will be having the liquidity needed to sell the coins into the market again against BTC, against potentially stablecoin or even fiat, because we managed to get the regulation for our exchange in Georgia, and pay out our participants and investors. This is the long-term plan.
So before we go over to that marketplace that's going to open on the 14th of November, right, for people to withdraw. But let's touch that in a minute. I would like to talk about the NFT part, because you talked about people getting a share into the Xenomi. How does that work if you look into relation to all the investment made into staking and masternoding? And let's say that for instance, I shared my yield notes account, how much money I've invested. So let's say that for this example, let's say 10,000 euros. That 10,000 euros might now maybe be worth like 1,500 euros, like you said. It's only 15%. Let's take that as a global number. How? Because of everything that's coming into the Xenomi and Yield Notes Pro, like you said, it's still, of course, a lot to work on and to build on. So how do you know that NFT, which is like a partial of like a share of those assets, because you're not invested into those assets? So how does that work?
I think we need to start with the marketplace, because one builds on the other. So I'm going to try to explain it from the first step that we are doing, which is this marketplace, which is going to come on the 14th of November. And we're doing it as a favor to our participants, because Yield Notes is not getting anything from it. It will be a peer-to-peer system. It's like a marketplace website. And people who want out because they have overcommitted themselves, or they do not see the vision of the Xenomi, or do not believe in the program anymore, have a way of selling their assets, and someone else can step in and take those up. The system will work that you can either offer them at a discount down to 10%, so you can at minimum get 10% of your assets right now. But this is the hard bottom, meaning we put this to undermine underselling, because we do not want to create a market where people are completely frantic and want to sell for 5% of their value. This 10% every 2 weeks from the start goes up by another 10%. So the hard bottom is going to increase over time, so that it will become a appreciating way of, also other investors, outsiders who want to come in and take a share of the Xenomi, see that process. They understand if they wait too long, the price might go up higher and higher, and to create a buyer's market, essentially, to put some pressure on the other side to help people that want to get out. You can set your price also into the upside, because we believe at a later stage, it's also be beneficial that you can sell your assets at, say, 120%, up to 300 is right now the hard cap, but we will increase it, because we are quite optimistic that once people see that the assets will be coming in, that you also can sell at a profit. So what we are doing right now is we want to give people options. This is purely to leave and get someone else in as a way for people to get out. This is the first step. This is this marketplace, and this marketplace is going to stay until we go to the next phase, which would be the NFT. So this is probably down like in about six to 7 months. The NFTs will come into play. And by then, a lot of issues will have sorted out in a sense that people who wanted to leave could leave, and new people who wanted to join could join in for a piece of the pie. And since we are not collecting any more money, which is very important, we are not going to open up for money collecting, because those days are definitely over for me, as you can imagine. This marketplace will be the only way for new people to get a share of the Xenomi. So once the NFTs are being launched, those shares are being tied into this certificate, which is not a picture of an ape or some collectible. It's more like a certificate, like a contract of obligation of the full value. And the NFT step is only there to allow people in a flexible way to trade it, to sell it on OpenSea, to get flexibility with it. This is the only reason why we're doing it. Also, the owner of the NFT, once we start dispersing, because we are still tentatively trying the 5% that we are going to pay quarterly until we realize the vision of the Xenomi, can be paid out with this NFT, meaning like the NFT holder is going to get the 5% quarterly via BTC, via stablecoin, via fiat potentially. We are still exploring the options, but this is our goal.
And so where do you pay the 5% from then? Where is that money coming from?
This is if the coins in the meantime, through the work and the assets that bringing in, that the coin it's still not back to value. It's very important to understand. This is not yet back to the value of the Xenomi, but it's still like we envision that the coins values will rise also by the work that we're doing by going into the right direction. The real value is going to come when the Xenomi is launching and when the NFTs can be bound to the Xenomi and when the coins are pegged then to the real value. So we hope that most of the people, once they get the NFT, will be then waiting the full roadmap out and join the Xenomi, and then it will become, we estimate it will be a very big payday then, once this launches.
And the 5%, if the price increases, will be shared, like you said, in Bitcoin, or so you have to put in another withdrawal, exactly. Just like before, the monthly payments method. Okay. So the question, also, YoutNotes had issues with Chainalytics, right? That you were flagged as a potential fraud, and that's probably why Binance blocked you. Is that true?
It was mostly FTX in an ironic fashion, right? We get mostly complaints from FTX, which is now itself imploding these days. So I believe this is not going to be an issue. Also, because we didn't get flagged anymore, like we removed that problem by being very transparent with our blockchain movements, and there were no more complaints. Like it's not flagged anymore in the transactions.
Okay, so basically, if the market stabilizes and then you bring on the new businesses to bring real value to the Xenomi, you still see possibilities in the future to kind of pick up where you left, or maybe not even left it, exactly. But like where it's at. Maybe that's a better saying, I guess.
To admit some because we made mistakes. We are much aware of that. We made mistakes by moving too slowly. We were too slow with the implementation of the use cases. So a lot of the goodwill that we had, plus to compound it with the market situation that exists right now, with the war, with the depreciation, with the interest in crypto being at an all-time low. We still move too slowly by implementing this because we have some older interviews and also some older partners that came aboard, and pegging it to real assets for us was always the way to go in the long run, because we knew that gambling on coin value cannot be a long-term goal. We always knew that, and we grew a little bit complacent, I need to admit, by having so much success and by the coins growing and bubbling up, so to speak, that we were too slow with implementing this. And now this needs to be rectified sooner than later, and we need to work overtime through this year to bring the vision of the Xenomi to life, to set things right for everyone.
I have a question from Jeff, and his question is, what is the incentive for businesses to join YoutNotes?
First of all, if you are going to join yield nodes, nothing in the business per se for the business owner changes for the worse, because they do all the transactions as they used to do, but they're doing it through the coins. They can choose then to either hold their value in coins or transact straight through it. At the beginning, a lot of the businesses will probably transact straight through it, but as soon as the businesses understand that holding Sapphire in an economic zone, is going to be very beneficial. The more assets are coming in, because the more assets that are producing hard goods, producing rent, producing services come into the place, the more coins will be transacted, and the higher the valuation of those coins will be, because the liquidity is increasing. Coins need to be bought from exchanges, and this makes for a flourishing economy. So sooner or later, the businesses will understand that it's quite beneficial to actually hold those coins, and this will be then when we definitely have a win. Also, you had a question on your mind.
No, go ahead.
Also, there will be several boons. For instance, if like a hotel owner comes in and there's other hotels transacting under the Cenomy, there will be communities forming that are helping each other out. Like, what is working for you in the Cenomy? How do you transact? There will be different community pools forming that can help each other in their businesses on a day-to-day basis. On the next layer, businesses that are doing ecologically friendly, are behaving in an ecologically friendly manner, can get boons in form from bonus tokens from other chains. For instance, we have a carbon offset coin that can be paid to those businesses as an incentive to work through the Cenomy. They can also share their projects with one another, like a profit share. They can check. It will be like a big map. They can go and say, okay, from this business, I would like to have a profit share, or offer a profit share to someone else, and they can transact over it. On a second layer then, think taxation. This will be probably way more into the future, but you can build taxation into the transaction protocol, meaning tax can already automatically and transparently flow off the transactions to the government. You can have a lower taxation than a regular governmental apparatus, because there will be no bureaucracy, there will be no notaries needed, no lawyers needed. It's transparent. There will be no money laundering going on. The inflation can be kept at a minimum, probably not zero, but a minimum, because when assets leave the system, there will be a coin burn mechanism to balance the economy out. And underlying all of this is still staking and masternoding. That is essentially the motor of the full system.
So, just to summarize it, that for my understanding, is that the incentive for business owners, for one, is that. So I think that means that if a customer is paying for using a service of one of those companies that joined yield nodes, is probably paying in his own fiat, and then behind the exactly, and technically that money is being transferred on the exchange to Sapphire. And then from one moment to the other, Sapphire can then be sold again against against the dollar or euro or whatever fiat money or crypto. And a company can choose, like, maybe 1%. I want to hold 1% of everything that I make on the platform in the Sapphire coin for also staking, masternoding, or maybe to have the chance that the coin will rise in value, so I will have more revenue at the end of the year. Is that a correct interpretation?
Exactly. Like a percentage slider. You can adjust this like with a simple variable, and the more the belief comes in, because the full economy will be then based on real goods and real assets. Mm-hmm. And this is our metric to go to, because in real world we see there's inflation happening, everything is devaluating, and the only true metric to us is like a real economy producing real goods, and we are basically pegging everything to that.
Okay, so Jeff, is that question answered? Let me know if you understand it, and if other people, if you also understand it, and else let's move on to maybe the marketplace from the 14th of November.
In 3 days, yes.
Yeah, it's in 3 days. So maybe I'm just thinking now out loud. Like we talked about so maybe just a short recap for also new people watching this, is that most of the most on your balance sheet, every deposit ever made, like all the total amount of all investors is now underwater because the coins depreciated. All the coins are there, but they have depreciated. So you're holding the coins and you have to, on one side, have to wait until the value increases again. And you are potentially increasing the value, A, by probably a next bull market, which will have some time needed before it's there. And B, you're building on Yield Notes Pro, where real businesses are tapping into the economy, bringing in movement on the market, bringing in real money, real use cases, so that there will be more more crypto exchanged on your platforms, also increasing the volume and also more crypto bought and held, and therefore increasing the value, right? And in that way, it's also possible eventually to get 100% payout on your account at the end of the at the end of the, I'm not sure when,
if
but
we do our jobs right.
Yes.
And there's no plan B for us. It's full on work mode.
And we talked in August, and I also asked the question, how many employers are working at Yield Notes, and then you said 50. A lot of people are working on those projects, software developers, project managers, etc. How many people are now still working for Yield Notes? It's still 50, or is it like people being laid off? Or?
It's less. And it's not people laid off. A lot grew because we also paid a lot of salaries in Sapphire. A lot of them became also disillusioned. But let's say about 15 of those went away. But we also refilled the ranks because we are looking for NFT programmers. We have a lot of crypto. We are very crypto affine. Crypto is a good field for us, but we need NFT programming now coming into the scene. And we also have a lot of people that are still with us that are working free of charge, to give some shout out to especially our head programmer, which was always paid in Sapphire. So everyone is who's staying is very committed. Also, I hold large amounts of Sapphire, Peony, all the coins. And what's important to mention here is that we do not leave any of those coins behind, which I always get asked because people are trying to gauge which coin will be very important, which coin will be second fiddle, which coin you don't want to use. So all the coins that are currently in the Decenemy marketplace will be used and will have function in Decenemy, and those who don't, because we have 15, and it can be that this number will shrink to a lower amount, will be merged. Meaning merging is like fusing two coins into another and raising the value and bringing the communities together. So the best parts will be in that coin. So if you own one of those coins, chances are that it will get a higher evaluation after the fusing. So this is just very important that we're not buying new coins. We're not making a separate coin. We're using what we have and what we built in the past to fuel the vision.
So back to the NFTs, it's also a question from Michel. Once, like in 6-7 months, you will give out those NFTs, and NFTs will make it easier for people who have an account to sell the account, right? And you can sell it to, and you can receive probably different cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or maybe even stable coins on your wallet if you're selling your portfolio. Do you have to make a choice in what kind of group your NFT is being pegged to, or can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Like if you have 10,000 euros in your account or dollars or whatever, you get an NFT which has the value of 10K. Do you have to make any decisions on what kind of NFT, or is it just like a 10K NFT?
We will offer different options. What is right now being debated is we will offer different projects for different ways to even, deconstruct that NFT into several more smaller ones. So essentially what you can do is probably, and this is a tentative thing, we're discussing it, and it's possible according to our lead NFT developer, like a 10,000 NFT could be fractured into 10 1,000 NFTs, so that you are able to sell 1,000 worth of NFT. You will be getting 10 NFTs, and you can sell 1,000, for instance, if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you will be also able to combine NFTs to a higher value NFT. This is all possible because it's essentially a smart contract. It's a programmable language, and so we can work with it. But every decision that we're making, and I want to emphasize that, will be for the value of our participants. So any decision that is made is to either get back on the higher value as quickly as possible, or to pay out everyone who's underwater as quickly as possible. That's why I said the 5% quarterly could be paid out right if the funds permit, would be paid out right away, or they would need to be compounded until we reach the evaluation which is high enough to pay them out. So this is all a little bit far out. That's why I'm swinging here a bit with the answer.
I understand, and I think what's clear to me is, and what was unclear before, is that I thought, okay, you're bringing new businesses onto YieldNotes Pro. So let's say maybe a charging business, electricity, or a different kind of assets. So on what kind of those assets will my NFT be pegged against? But it's not pegged against those assets because those assets do not belong to YieldNotes, right?
Exactly.
It's your business partner.
So full economy.
Exactly. So it's just a value NFT. You can decide on your own. If you have 10K, I want 10 NFTs worth 1K each, or you want 2 of 5K. Maybe that's something that's a user can make a decision on. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Check. Also a question, like let's say that there are still pending withdrawals, people that withdrew in October, and which should have been paid out in November, but of course that did not happen. How does that look? Is that payment that you still need to receive? Does it come later, or when can people expect those payments that were...
Right away now, we are charging those payments back, but we will think of a solution in the future, to prioritize these payments when the time comes. Because at the moment, as said, Binance is locked. The money the BTC values that we have is locked, and we cannot rely on those being unlocked. They could be unlocked tomorrow, to be fair. It could happen, but we cannot rely from a business perspective on it. So we need to make adjustments in order to see the way forward. This is the problem. And so for now, they will be charged back, but we will keep a log file, of course, so we can mark and flag those payments. In a later stage, probably prioritize those payments to be paid out and make those payments that should have been paid, pay them out before the other payments are going to come.
So those payments will soon be added to your account again, because I checked. Exactly. And it's still on withdrawal, right? So you can see, but the amount was 0 on the 8th of November. So it's probably sometimes...
It's going to flow back in the account before the 14th. Definitely.
Oh yeah, okay. And then again, somewhere in the future, you can click on the withdraw again, and then at some point in the future, you can either get the full amount or less.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's see for other questions. Let's see. Yeah, there is one remark from Ludo, which said, well, that he wasn't aware that you could lose liquidity that easy, and I think that was also in our interview. You put it on your balance, and you also always said that it's a high risk, and you were still, of course, certain that you would not lose the funds. But at the moment, even like a little time later, it happened, right?
It was the problem was, what if, like we saw it coming. Let's say there was an attack 2 months before, which made Sapphire crumble from 80 cents down to 39 cents. And there we managed to recover a little bit because we had some liquidity in the form of BTC. But then after it crumbled further, and then when we saw that we would have needed like a pack of about 80, 90 cents of Sapphire that we reached during the audit, and we couldn't recover to that level. And this was the problem. Because also the price itself is not as important as the liquidity, because if there's only one buyer at $90 and the rest of the buyers are sitting lower at 40 and there's no liquidity to exchange it, liquidity is much more important than price. And we compounded that problem, but the problem was we had no choice in that moment, because either we would have kept a straight face and smiled to the cameras and said, yeah, everything is fine, or we would have said, for instance, it's not looking so good. That would also have been not an option, because if you are sowing doubt, especially me as the CEO of the company, it would have depreciated very quickly, because an ounce of doubt in my voice or in my presence would have already dwindled value, because everything hangs in this balance. So I, as a CEO, need to try to walk the line between you're not chilling, like not over promising, and not looking scared. So to me, it was also when we get this notice, it was 24 hours. I got it from Moose, and he said, look, the account has been blocked. Now we cannot pay out this. This is like, we need to stop. And that day was horrific in that moment, as you can imagine. And we needed to scramble. That's why the light paper is still very light, and why the more iterations are going to come until the full white paper is finished. But unfortunately, in that moment, it was the only course of action that we saw. Maybe it could have been done better. Maybe it could have communicated in a different way. But, you know, in hindsight, everyone...
But let's I mean, your honest take. If we forward 1 year, we are now in November 2023. Of course, we have no idea how the market is then, but let's say inflation, that inflation will be on a decline. Yeah, let's assume.
Okay.
And what is needed for yield nodes to go back to where you were in August 2022, where you can receive monthly payouts, you are making yield. Of course, your deposit is safe-ish. There's a risk, but it's still there, and you're making money, and you can withdraw your funds. What is needed? Can you summarize that again? And B, how big are the odds for people to see their initial investment back? Like really?
Okay, so this is a very hard question to answer. But looking in the past, it's a three-step process. One step was like we shown that we can build blockchain. We have blockchain coins, we have the exchange, we have a regulated exchange, we have traffic websites. So one part of the puzzle is still in place. So we are not like starting from the ground. We already have built something. The next step is the NFT making, which is essentially giving people more flexibility and more control over their money to decentralize the operation further. And the third step, and this is the most important one, is the creation of the Xenomy and the model working with the businesses brought in. We have a set, like the tentative 1 billion in assets, which I will work tirelessly towards amping it up through the year. So the pieces of the puzzle are all in place. Now it's about combining everything together and make it a workable, decentralized market. And this is where it hangs. Like, if we manage to do it, I'm very confident that we can go back to old levels and much higher, because then we are essentially proving that we can do it better than how the economy is working right now, without the money laundering, without the corruption, without all the intransparencies. And if we cannot do it, then it looks dire. So I believe between those two, I give it a 70% success rate, honestly. Depends much on our work, because like we have also no other thing to do, or we are also not earning any salaries or anything. I hold a lot of coins, and our highest priority is to make this work. So you have a fully devoted team, definitely motivated, because as said, no plan B. So I see very high odds of succeeding.
Yeah, 70% is, of course, there's a lot of variables I can understand, and it's a lot of work.
Exactly, it's a tentative assessment on my side.
Yeah.
But I truly believe in it. Else we would have pointed at disclaimers, would have said there's a risk, we cannot control bank runs, this is how it is, and would have pointed at those disclaimers and would have hit the road, if we weren't believing in it. But we are still here, and we are working through this. This is very important to us.
I have a question from Michel, and he asks, will there be a tutorial or video at the time YieldNodes Pro will be launched, so that we know what to do and how everything works? NFTs is totally new for me.
Yeah, it will be we will guide you by hand and explain every concept, because most of this work, this relies on us. As said, still masternoding, still staking, still going to generate a revenue based on that, but the rest is all on us. And the NFT, we will offer the courses and tutorials to make it as simple as possible, however, also much more secure than the current, because people still confuse NFTs with the DeFi market and that it can be easily hacked or so. But we will do a 2FA lockup for the NFT, like with the cell phone that you're used to secure your NFT contract that is truly yours, build all the security parameters in place, have an auditing firm audit the contracts, and make sure that everything is going as smoothly and as easily as possible. So this is also a very high priority to make the process very understandable for all of us.
So, okay, and in the future, I mean, at the moment, it's not possible for new investors to join, other than the marketplace that will open in 3 days from now, where you can, if you want, you can sell your portfolio for a 90% discount, which you say I would not do that, but
it depends. This is only the lower level.
Yeah, it's a low level, and every 2 weeks,
this is the lowest you can set,
yeah.
But.
And every 2 weeks, you can it gets increased with 10% at a maximum of, let's say, 300%, right? But my question is, how do you onboard? Let's say you're working towards that Yield Notes Pro, and it's and you think it's starting to work like technically. At some point, you probably want new investors, not only with other people selling their accounts to new investors for a discount, but at some point you want some kind of healthy new inflow of investors, right? So how does that look?
We are not going to collect any more money, Roger.
Never.
This is how it is. We're going to make it whole for the people that are in the system, and we're working towards that. And you can imagine the stress I've been under in the past couple of weeks. And with the money collecting business, I'm definitely true. We also want this as an incentive for the marketplace, for people who see and understand what we are trying to build. Those people coming in. So these 6 months until the NFT will be the only way that you can participate in the Xenomy. So this is also like a pressure for outside people. Either you want to join us and help people who want to get out, or this is it.
So what if no new investors come in? So what's the future then of Yield Notes Pro? Is it at some point, is it stopping?
At the point is, once the Xenomy launches and once the payouts come, either you are looking for a huge payday, like a lot of profit, and then you can transact with the coins or masternode yourself, or we will buy back the NFTs and give people their money like in our internals and pay out the value of the NFTs plus the accrued profits. But on the long run, we do not see Yield Notes Pro to be a long-term project. So we want to make it whole for the investors. We want to make it whole with profits, of course. But then what could happen is that different masternode pools will form inside the Xenomy and allow for people to get shares, because it will be a decentralized system. Or they can masternode and stake the coins themselves and be part of the economy. But it will be only a temporary solution until everything is launched and everyone is made whole.
Okay, so because if I understand this correctly, if you're bringing in the Xenomy and you bring in real life assets, packing them to your currency, so what's going to make the markets keep circulating like 5 years from now? Or is Yield Notes Pro then? Has it stopped?
Still masternoding and staking.
Okay.
Still masternoding and staking as the motor underneath it. So either we keep doing it or people keep doing it, but by then it will be a very transparent process.
And how do you buy coins then from the exchange? But there will not be a kind of Yield Notes portal where you deposit and everything gets done by Yield Notes. That will stop.
That will stop, yes.
Okay, I understand now. Okay. All right. Yeah, let's see if are there any other questions in the chat. Now is a good time to let me know. Is there anything else that we need to tap into, Steve?
I think we covered the basis, but we can always do a second AMA if you like. If you get more questions or more people that need answers, I'd be gladly coming back on screen.
There's a question if lawsuits will be a problem for Yield Notes Pro, if there are any lawsuits coming.
We spoke with our lawyers and we are out of risk. We could have also, just dropped everything according to our lawyers, but lawyers is always tricky. There could be potential stuff. I don't want to comment because I'm not a lawyer, but so far from our lawyers in Hong Kong, in Malta and in Germany, they said we are actually good and the claims are quite baseless because we didn't sign any contracts with our counterparties and we had a full risk disclaimer, the risk assessment. And I made it a point in my videos to talk always about risk and to warn people not to overcommit. But people being people, and understandably so, a lot of people overcommitted, and this is why we built the marketplace.
So what is from your perspective, I mean, you have all the insights of your business. What would be your recommendation for somebody who invested a partial of his money into Yield Notes and is now maybe in doubt? And even after this information, after this Ask Me Anything session with you, what in your perspective is something that you would like to tell people to keep in mind when making decisions? And how would you approach it if you yourself are one of those investors? And the money means, of course, yeah.
Sure. I know that the marketplace is coming on in 3 days, but I would not hurry towards it. I would take a step back, and if you do not need that money immediately to cover some medical bills or something crazy that you really need money in hand right now, I would wait a little bit and see how this situation develops, because we are putting a lot of effort into finding new partners that are coming on board. So you will get a much higher price if you wait it out a little bit. This is just my suggestion. Personally, I would not sell under 100% of my assets because I believe in the project and I will keep going with it. But I understand that life happens and the circumstances for everyone are different. So you also have my full sympathies if you need to leave at 10%. But I really would not suggest it, honestly. I would wait it out a little bit because I said it's going to appreciate. We have a lot of things to show over the coming months. The marketplace is here for 6 months. So if we're making good strides, who knows where we're going to go.
So how do you see at the moment the value of the accounts of people? Let's say you have that 10,000 euros in your account and maybe a couple weeks ago that was worth maybe only 1,500 euros because of the tokens have declined a lot. How is that developing now? Is it still declining? Is it going flat, or there's a light increase? How is that going?
There's a slight increase right now because we are slowly turning the tide a little bit and people start understanding what we are trying to build, and they also start understanding why things have happened the way they have happened. And with the understanding comes also a little bit of sympathy. So most of the people are really behind us. Like I can say, like we have 1.5% of the full community, which is absolutely enraged, understandably. And the rest, some of them are frustrated and angry, but there's no threats of lawsuits or anything like that. And a lot of them are actually quite sympathetic and understand what we are trying to build and why things happened the way they did. They understand that we are the only reason why we could still be here is because we want to make things work. And so I'm very grateful for those people. So let's say all I'm asking is a little bit of patience, essentially.
So let's say that if somebody is going to put a lot of trust in your work and in the work from your company, and next week on the marketplace you can buy 10,000 euro worth of portfolio for 1,000 euros. Let's say that's an option. That's the only way, of course, at the moment how you can transact between portfolios, how you can increase your holding into yield nodes or decrease it. So like you said, the yield nodes project has an end date, and then it will be a open decentralized cryptocurrency project, right? Marketplace. So in the future, let's say that 10,000 is now worth. Does it increase in value as well if Yield Nodes Pro goes live and everything goes well?
So 5% quarterly, remember?
Yeah.
Every quarter, 5% increase. And this is an increase that we have put on our back to force us to stay in motion, to go towards the goal very quickly.
And that's a compounding effect.
Because it creates more liabilities for us.
And that's a compounding effect, the 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, and at one point, the 10,000, so 5% on 10,000 is 500 euros, right? So every 3 months you get 500 and then a little bit more than 500 euros. So you're on that NFT. I mean, OpenSea is a very large platform. I have little experience with OpenSea, but I know what it looks like. It would be, of course, very easy if it's some kind of way integrated into yield nodes to make it easier for customers, new customers and existing customers to transact with the yield node system instead of, I'm going to on OpenSea. It's like a very big world where you can sell an NFT, but how do people find your NFT and how do they even know that it's worth something? Maybe that they read it online, or I think how will you make that bridge that people will find out about, I can buy somebody's portfolio for 10,000 and it's worth like 12,000, or maybe it's worth 10,000 but the potential is 15,000, so I want this NFT. How do you see that? How do you envision that?
We will communicate this through extensive marketing, first of all. We will also market the launch of the NFTs properly. And to raise some eyeballs for the Descenomy project. So people that are coming there and seeing the full history say, Yields has worked for 3 years. They have built blockchains. They have gone from here where they almost failed, and now they're rebuilding, and they are bringing these assets, and they have auditors proving the assets are in place. If this materializes, it will be worth this and this and this amount. Then this is a very good value proposition, because then people who understand, who are outsiders, understand that we have gone to hard days. We have overcome problems, and we're working towards a goal. So I believe there will be no shortage of buyers, to be honest. But this is not even the point. This is only the middle step, as you know. The true potential is then coming when it's back to the economy.
Yeah.
And this is also the promise with which those assets, these NFTs, could be sold.
Okay. So let's say it's next month, it's Christmas, December. We are 1 quarter later. I mean, starting from October. Is there going to be a payout next month? The first one, the 5%, or is
the first one is at the end of December. The 5%, yes, will be attributed to all the balances.
And how? Oh, it will be attributed to the balance. But I thought, okay. So, but how do you withdraw that 5%, or you cannot withdraw it, or on the marketplace?
It depends where we are at that stage. You know how much we have. Probably the first 5% will have to be held in the account. Then 3 months later, we can reassess. We can reassess how much has been going forward. If we have the assets liquid, we would like to pay people, so it's an ongoing payout process. But if we cannot, I cannot make any promises on that, because this has also to do with the market and how the market reacts to the work that we are doing.
And does it mean that if you, because of the NFT system, does it mean that for payouts, future payouts, does it mean that Yield Notes is buying NFTs, or is that that you can also withdraw some kind of profit without the use of NFTs?
Once the NFTs come into place, you will get the NFT to a wallet of your choice, and the profits will accrue on that wallet. So we will, as said, make the tutorials, and we will explain everything in detail so that you can manage without much headache. It will be really, I believe in a 10-15 minute video, we can explain the ins and outs and how to secure your NFT contract. And then we work from there. We will make an own community. Everyone will be invited. Because as said, we are not taking any new investors. So we have our member base. Everyone will get access to it, and everyone can discuss it. And also we are open to suggestions and everything to make things better. So it will be easy to do. I can promise that.
Yeah, okay. So let's say on a 10,000 euro portfolio, you receive 5%, which is 500 euros, and you would like to receive those 500 euros in Bitcoin. You will still have to sell it on the marketplace. So some kind of investor needs...
No. Sorry, when you hold the NFT, the BTC payout will go to the address that you define in your contract. So as long as you hold the NFT, you will get the payout of the BTC to an address of your choice. This will be happening. So you do not need to accrue it. You can accrue your NFT value, but you can also say, I want this in BTC. So it's going to be paid out on a BTC wallet of my choice.
Okay. And maybe another question is that, I mean, a lot of people also came aboard, of course, very, very high yields, high risk, high yield. Is there, at some point of time, is the yield, which is now set at 5% per quarter, is there any probability that yield is going up if this project succeeds?
Probably it will be the 5% through the year, until the beginning of the Descenomy, and then when the coins explode, whatever is going to be made in that moment and during that time before we close the project, it could also reach a very, very high evaluation. So when you sell those, you could also make looking at potential very hefty gains. This is my personal viewpoint, that there will be a huge payday at the end of the journey.
Yeah, okay, so your NFT, which is 10,000, if the Sapphire coin goes to $1 or even higher, whatever, that's probably what you're saying.
Exactly.
And then you sell all the coins, and then everybody will get its share. So let's say...
Then there will be a huge, like, if everything transpires, then there could be even 30-40% added in the latest tranche, and you made a lot of profit.
Yeah, okay. And then, but what happens then? Because if you sell everything, the market implodes and the coin gets useless again, right? Or not?
Not really, not really. It depends. We need to balance out how it's looking in the economy. You know, how much can be paid out without hammering the economy down.
Yeah.
But it will be hopefully in that moment a really, really good payout so that everyone is very happy, and then they can masternode themselves.
And the payout will be in Bitcoin or whatever currency you want again.
We are looking either at Bitcoin, stablecoin, or even fiat money, or offering all three at the end, because I said we got the license, and we're going to try to make it as flexible and workable as possible.
And is
this is always the
what is the aim?
Idea.
What is the aimed end game for this? For that in that point of time, is that late to 23, late 24, 25, or when is the decision to quit the yield notes program, pay everybody, and move on to the Senomy, like without the yield notes component? When is that? Is that like a year from now, or?
Tentatively, but I cannot say for sure yet, because there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that still need to be considered. We are now one month since the horrible day X, as you know.
Yeah. All right. Maybe one more question, like what is the biggest danger for Yield Notes Pro? The biggest risk?
That it's a lot of work. The thing is, like, the Senomy needs to come to full fruition, because until we are pegging the values to the real values, it's all still in a gambly fashion. So there could be the bull market coming, there could be the bear market going on. But right now, we need to make sure that we realize the vision of the Senomy. This is where we can, once that is reached and we manage that, then it's a sure win. If we don't reach that, then everything hangs in the balance of the promise. So we need to work. We need to work and get this out in the open, so to speak. But else I don't see, because we are not depending much on outside factors. We collected all the money. We have our own coins. We are working in our own system where we then exchange with other exchanges, but we have learned to not rely on outside parties or the market sentiment anymore. And this is why we are wanting to do it this way, because real assets remain real assets, and real economy is real economy, producing. And the more, if it becomes interesting to parties to join, and the more parties will join, we are in control, because we can onboard as many assets then as we want in different market segments, and then it becomes really, really interesting.
Yeah. All right, Steve, thank you so much for your time and explanation. It would be great to have you on again in the near future to see how things go with the NFTs, and maybe we can show people some of the footage and talk more about the current situation, market, and of course, I wish you the best of luck with Yield Notes Pro, and we are all part of it, right?
Locked in, all part of it,
We are all locked in.
Willingly or unwillingly, I understand, but
we are rooting for this to be a
we are trying
success.
our very best to turn this around and make this a success story. I know crypto doesn't have many good crypto comeback stories so far. I don't know of any that is actually quite was in the gutter and came back, but we want to be the first one in this case. And we will do whatever is needed, to work through the year and make this happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Roger.
Thank you, Steve.
It's been a pleasure.
All
Thank you for the questions, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
And see you soon.
All right, Steve. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oké, mensen. Ik blijf nog heel even live over om even een paar met jullie in gesprek te gaan. En ik neem afscheid van Steve. So, thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Bye-bye. This means...
Oh. We praten nog even een klein beetje na over wat we net met Steve besproken hebben. En zal ik ook natuurlijk nog even mijn eigen interpretatie die ik nu heb van dit moment, wat de kans van slagen is en wat hij nou gezegd heeft over dat hele project. Dus ik hoop dat jullie het een beetje hebben kunnen volgen, wat de implicaties zijn van wat hij zegt. Hè? Dus wat mij betreft geeft hij aan van zij konden niet meer hun currencies verhandelen, waardoor eigenlijk de markt hun eigen markt instortte, waar ze dus een hele dikke vinger in de pap hadden. En hun Bitcoin holding op Binance was dus bevroren. En Nou, dat is dus nog steeds bevroren en de vraag is gewoon even nu hoe dat nu verder gaat. Ja, ik denk dat met Descendemy, daar zit wel potentie in natuurlijk, maar het is wel echt een enorme leap of faith hoor. Dus ik ben zelf nog best wel terughoudend in. Ik geloof echt wel dat ze er echt alles aan doen om het te redden. Maar ik heb dus ook vanavond geleerd dat dit project dus wel eindig is. Ja, ik hoop dat jullie dat ook goed gehoord hebben. Dat yield nodes, zoals we dat hebben gekend, dat gaat uiteindelijk stoppen. Dus dat is denk ik wel een belangrijk punt nog om nog een keer te herhalen. Is wat hij zei aan het eind van het interview net. Is wij gaan ons best doen om mensen hun geld terug te geven. Nou, daar gaan ze dus alles voor doen om ook de Descendemy live te brengen. Zodat er bedrijven komen die hun business koppelen aan hun blockchains en hun currencies. Zodat er meer volume gaat komen en dat er ook echt aantoonbaar is dat die currencies dus ook een echte use case hebben in de real world. En daarmee uiteindelijk de waarde van hun tokens ook omhoog gaan, zodat ze die uiteindelijk kunnen verkopen weer. En dus ook de payouts kunnen gaan garanderen voor mensen die een portfolio hebben bij yield nodes. Dus die yield nodes Pro, wat Jeff ook nu zei in de chat inderdaad, is uiteindelijk alleen om alles af te betalen. Dus de yield nodes stopt uiteindelijk. En hij zei van nou heel voorzichtig, over een jaar is dat klaar. En dan blijft de Descendemy gewoon bestaan. Die tokens blijven bestaan, masternoding blijft, staking blijft. Alleen niet meer via dat yield nodes platform. Maar dan kan je zelf eventueel via een exchange investeren in die tokens, zelf gaan steken of masternoden. En als je daar geloof in hebt, kan je daar dan wel geen geld mee verdienen. Dus dat is wel relevant. En over 3 dagen dus gaat die marketplace live. En daar kan je dus in beginsel tot 10% van je holdings terugkrijgen als iemand dat wil kopen dus. En elke 2 weken wordt dat meer. Dus wat mijn vertrouwen is, nou hij zei 70%. Ik denk dat ik vind 70% is denk ik nog misschien aan de hoge kant. Dat weet ik natuurlijk niet, maar dat is zo'n gevoel. Als hij 70% zegt, als hij echt overtuigd was, dan had hij gezegd 99%. En dan had je misschien kunnen denken, nou 50%. Dus spannend is het zeker. Ja, wat mijn plan de campagne is, of ik erin blijf zitten. Voorlopig, ik neem niet genoegen met de 90% afschrijving. Ik moet zeggen, ik heb wel 100% afgeschreven op mijn eigen sheet. Ja, ik kan er niet bij, maar ik ga niet voor 10% verkopen. Ik ga zelf ook niet andere portfolio's overkopen. Dit hele systeem, Yield Nodes Pro, is ervoor bedoeld om mensen zoals jij en ik, die geïnvesteerd zijn in Yield Nodes, uiteindelijk te kunnen voorzien in hun balance sheet. Ja? En zij hopen op een grote payday, dat als ze uiteindelijk dat project stoppen, dat je dus in potentie, noem maar wat, je portfolio kan verdubbelen als die coins dus veel waard zijn. Dus dan moet je een beetje mazzel hebben met de timing. Is er dan een bullmarkt? Is er dan veel volume en gaan die coins omhoog? En dat moet allemaal samenkomen om een goede en bijvoorbeeld 30% of 50% of 100% profit nog te pakken op je hele portfolio. En dan krijg je die payout in bitcoin of in stablecoins of in fiat. Dus ik wacht het af. Ik ga helemaal niks doen. Ik wil gewoon 100% eruit halen. En ik ga dit blijven volgen. Dus ik zal Steve ook weer vragen, TCT, om weer op dit kanaal te komen, om weer te praten. En dan gaan we met elkaar gewoon weer de balans opmaken. Voor mij is het nu zo, is dat oké, dit is de richting, geef ze wat tijd. Want je zit er toch in. Je kan geen kant op. En nu voor 10% eruit stappen, ga ik niet doen. Ik denk dat er meer in zit, dus ik wacht daarop. Ja. Dat is even kort mijn reflectie. Dus ik ben benieuwd, wat vonden jullie daarvan? Hebben jullie nog andere vragen of wat is jullie reflectie daarop? Even los van dat het natuurlijk niet heel best uitziet. Maar... En anders gaan we gewoon deze stream zo meteen stopzetten. En dan wil ik jullie sowieso bedanken voor jullie aandacht natuurlijk. Laat nog even een duimpje achter als je het in ieder geval een informatieve sessie vond met Steve. Ja, heel kort nog reageren op jou, Jeff, over die bedrijven. Volgens wat hij aangaf in ieder geval, en dat is alleen maar wat ik heb gehoord, net wat hij zei natuurlijk, is dat een bedrijf bijvoorbeeld, dus ik noem maar wat, je hebt een webshop en je verkoopt daar producten of diensten en die betalen klanten en achter de schermen wordt zeg maar in de techniek, in de fintech, wordt dan die transactie bijvoorbeeld in euro's wordt omgezet in Sapphire. Ja, en dan kan dat bedrijf, die partners van Yield Nodes, die kunnen dan ervoor kiezen bijvoorbeeld om 99% meteen weer om te zetten in fiat. En daar krijgen ze waarschijnlijk een incentive voor. Dus daar zullen ze wat extra aan verdienen. En aan de andere kant hopen ze natuurlijk dat er dan een stukje blijft staan in de Descendemy van die tokens, zodat er meer volume gaat komen. Dus ik ben met je eens van wat is dan de benefit van dat bedrijf? Want als ik dat via mijn bedrijf zou doen, En er gaat 100 euro in, een klant die spendeert 100 euro, dan wil je natuurlijk wel 100 euro ook eruit krijgen, want dat moet dan in je boekhouding in. Dus daar moet niet in één keer dan 5 euro afgaan, of als er dan in één keer 10 euro bij komt, is dat ook raar. Dus hoe dat precies werkt, weet ik niet. Maar ja. Ja, dus oké, jongens, dan gaan we gewoon afsluiten zo. Het was een extra uitzending en ondanks even wat technische issues hoop ik dat het geluid in ieder geval toch goed was, ook van Steve door de microfoon. Dan neem ik dat mee voor de volgende keer in ieder geval. En dankjewel voor het kijken. Morgen komt er een interessante video waar ik even een zelfgemaakte tool in Excel of in Google Sheets eigenlijk heb gemaakt, waar jij heel makkelijk overzicht krijgt in jouw portefeuille. Of het nou crypto is, aandelen is, maakt niet uit, fiat. Hoe je dat heel inzichtelijk kan maken, grafisch visueel kan maken, stap voor stap. En die tool die deel ik ook gewoon gratis met jullie. Kan je gewoon gelijk morgen mee gaan spelen. Dus voor mensen denk ik leuk en interessant om naar te kijken. Dus ga die video sowieso kijken, komt om 10 uur live. Ik ga daar nu verder mee aan de gang. En ik zie je gewoon snel weer in de volgende aflevering. En een fijne avond. Tot ziens allemaal.